everyone. Today I wanted to share with you guys some of the hobbies that I bring with me on my nomadic lifestyle. When you're nomadic, you just can't bring that much stuff with you. I'm in my space now that I'm going to be in for the next few months, but even so, I don't want to accumulate a lot of things because then I either have to figure out what I'm going to do with them when I leave or figure out how I'm going to carry them with me, and that's just, it's too much. I don't want to do that. So I try to go for activities that are nice and small and require little to no supplies or equipment. Because I think it's really important to have hobbies for your mental health, because otherwise you just end up sort of scrolling on social media or just watching TV. And not that either of those activities are bad, but social media particularly, it's a dopamine-based activity, so it's not really relaxing for the brain because it's always like, what's next, what's next, what's next? It doesn't refill your cup. And I'm not saying that you should never be on your phone or anything like that. It's just interesting that it's the go-to activity when we're tired. It's like what our brains are like the most excited about doing. It's like, yes, do that. However, it actually makes you more tired. So, I don't know, brains are interesting. So these are some alternatives for things you can do in the evening or on the weekends that are still quiet. They don't require a ton of brain power, but they actually kind of recharge your battery instead of drain it further. So first activity that I will always recommend to anybody is reading. I love reading. I do a lot of reading. So I use both physical copies of books. Quite often I'll get them from used bookstores if I can find them. This one I couldn't, so I had to buy new. That's okay. This is for my business group's book club this month. We're reading Girls That Invest. And then I also use the Libby app on my tablet to get out books from my library, but like digital copies of books. So I do a lot of fiction reading as well, and I always do that before bed. I can't read a book that's educational before bed because I get too excited and I like want to journal about the ideas and stuff, and that's not the energy we want right before bed. So I tend to read these books in the morning if I get up early, which I often do. And I tend to do a lot of my educational reading on the weekends. I like to take my books to the beach, to the park. I like to sit outside and read a lot. And I always bring a notebook with me and a pen so that I can write down ideas. I know some people annotate their books. I can't do that. That gives me too much anxiety. I love the idea of annotating books. I like watching videos of other people doing it, but it's not for me because I don't really have anywhere to keep all of these. As I already mentioned, used bookstores are fantastic, and sometimes you can get a card for the local library. It depends. Libraries are typically funded by municipal taxes, so if you don't have proof that you live in the local area, fair enough, you can't get a card. However, an interesting thing that I just found out a couple weeks ago was that British Columbia, where I live, has a program where if you have a library card for anywhere in British Columbia, you can use it at other branches in the same province. So even though they're technically not the same library system, they can work together. So I was living on Vancouver Island before I moved to Vancouver. So I was able to use my library card from the Vancouver Island Regional Library, and I'm able to use that to get books out of the Vancouver Public Library while I'm here. And considering I live here 6 months out of the year, that's pretty awesome. Libraries can also be a great place to get like movies. Sometimes they have puzzles. I don't currently have the space to do any jigsaw puzzles, but if I did, you better believe I'd be getting some out of the library. So, top recommendation, reading. Educational, personal development, all those kind of non-fiction books, mornings and on weekends. Trashy fiction books in the evening. Actually, the one I'm reading right now is quite good. It's from the author who wrote Divergent, and I never read that series. I sort of saw the commercials for the movie. It's probably like 10, 15 years ago. And I was like, it seems sort of interesting, but I never picked it up. However, this book's quite good, so maybe I will go back and read them. The next activity that I'm going to recommend is coloring. Yes, coloring. As an adult, you can do it too. This book is called Kingdom of Curious Creatures. It's really, really cute pictures of animals either in fairy tale scenes or just going about their day-to-day life in this
Enchanted Fairy Tale Kingdom. Just really, really cute stuff. I got this from my local chapters, but you can find all kinds of coloring books at craft stores, bookstores, hobby stores. Just have a look. They're out there. And you don't have to just color cute animals doing people things, although I don't know why you wouldn't want to do that. That very much speaks to me. But if you're like, nah, but you're like, I'd be super interested in coloring like country garden scenes or something like that. Like, yes, these books come in a wide, wide variety. And for me, this is like the ultimate end of the day. My brain is complete mush and I just want to turn it off. No more thoughts, only colors. This is a great activity for that because for me, the stressful and anxiety inducing part of artwork is the line art. I love doing art and creative things, but I am not great at line art. I'm not great at drawing. However, I do really enjoy choosing colors and seeing how they work together and seeing it all come together. So this is, for me, is the way to do the part of creating art that is my favorite. It is the lowest stress and the most relaxing. So, yeah, if you enjoyed coloring as a child, I highly recommend you pick it up again as an adult. Like there is no reason why not. You can absolutely do it.
And you don't need those packs of like 300 pens from Temu or anything. Just get yourself a good set of blendable pens that you can layer to kind of create different colors and shading and stuff like that, and then you're good to go. That's all you need. And I like to pop on a podcast or a YouTube video while I'm doing these, especially a podcast. Something silly, something light, something that I don't have to like pay too much attention to or think too much about. And that's kind of a really nice chill way to like spend a little bit of unwind time in the evening. Listen to my silly podcast, do some colors. Very, very relaxing. Highly recommended.
If you enjoy arts and crafts, then another great hobby that's pretty portable, I think, is actually cross stitch. Now, some equipment is required, but I think none of it's so large or bulky as to be prohibitive to a nomad lifestyle. Like it all packs up pretty easily. I generally can't take it on an airplane because it does need scissors, but otherwise it's good for, I find, if I have long like uninterrupted stretches of time that aren't on an airplane. It isn't the lowest of effort hobbies. Like you do need to follow a pattern and stay on top of what you're doing and make sure you're not making mistakes. So if I'm really tired, it's not my go-to. And that's why I've been working on this project for, I think, 15 years. Like, first of all, I'm just not fast at this stuff. I have to check the pattern like 4 times before I'm ready to commit to putting some stitches in. And I definitely work on it very sporadically. But it is like a nice, quiet, relaxing activity. And I like to see the picture come together. Like, I like to do, again, this is another way for me to engage in art that doesn't feel high pressure. Somebody else has already made the pattern and figured out where the colors need to go. I just need to do it. So I do like to see it come together, and it's definitely taken me a while, but I'm in it to win it. I'm gonna finish this thing eventually. I don't care how many years it takes me. Maybe I'll actually be a senior citizen by the time it's done, but I am gonna finish it. And then I don't know what to do with it because I started this project long before I was nomadic. And generally, when you finish a cross stitching project, you put it in a frame and look at it, and it feels nice. But yeah, I don't know that I would bring it with me. Maybe it is koala themed, and so far everything that I do bring with me is koalas. So you know what? Maybe I will. Maybe I will.
I use the Aida fabric because it just improves the quality of my life. It makes it very easy. You know exactly where to put the stitches, and then they all look relatively uniform. I don't knock it out of the park every time, but I do my best. So as far as the equipment required, I've got my hoop and my fabric, my needles tucked in here. I have my pattern, which is a book that I'm pretty sure is either from the late 80s or the early 90s. These can quite often be found at secondhand stores. You do not need to buy these new, although you can if you want. And now Etsy exists, so I started this project pre-Etsy. That's how old it is. But anyways, Etsy exists now, so you can quite often get cool patterns off of there as well that are printable. And I've got my box of embroidery floss, which is not too big. I could honestly condense this down into something even smaller or put it into like a small, like some sort of like drawstring bag that would be collapsible and squishable, because that would actually pack much easier than a square box. Generally, when you're packing, squishy things are great, hard, boxy things, less great. Oh, and I forgot, this is actually a pair of scissors, believe it or not. Check this out. I got this from the Daiso. However, even though these are blunt, I would not recommend trying to take these on an airplane because it could be considered a concealed weapon. Possibly. I don't know. I don't want to find out the hard way. Did you guys hear that? There's a cat. Where? Strange. But I do enjoy cross stitch. I think it's a nice, relaxing hobby. You know when I get the most cross stitching done, and this is going to sound weird, it's when I go camping. I go camping with my family once a year. I bring my cross stitch. They're always like, where's the koalas at now? So they get their yearly update on my cross stitching project. Another hobby that I don't partake in as much as I used to is gaming. And when I lived in a house, I had a PlayStation and I loved gaming. I played video games since I was like 4 years old. That was actually how I learned to use DOS on computers. Anyone under the age of 40 has no idea what I'm talking about, but you used to have to type in command prompts to get to the games part of the computer. It wasn't just an icon you could click on back in the day. I really liked playing a dinosaur game, so that was how I learned how to write command prompts so that I could get to my dino game on the computer. One game I have been playing recently, I stopped when we went to Japan and I haven't picked it up again since, but when we were in Brisbane, I was playing a lot of Animal Crossing Pocket Camp. So that is their mobile game. It's available on the phone, and yeah, that really had me in a chokehold, actually. Like, to the point where I was like, is this negatively affecting my life? I'd be pulling it out at the office and being like, I'll just do a little bit of fishing. It's like, do I have a problem?
I mean, just look how cute this game is. There is no combat in Animal Crossing. It's all about leveling up your friendship with animals and basically completing tasks for them. They either want you to gather them things like fruits or bugs or fish. You can go fishing in this game, which I like. Or, they want you to craft furniture for your campsite so that they'll move in. You can decorate the campsite any way you want. You do need to obtain the furniture pieces that specific animals want so that they'll move in. I have so far all of the koalas that I've met have moved into my camp, which makes my heart very happy. But you don't have to actually decorate your camp with the items. So it's just super adorable and very relaxing and low stress. However, I will warn you, it does get its hooks in you. It's very clever with, getting you to log back in every hour or so and be like, oh, the cherries are back, I gotta get some more because friendo over here on this island wanted some. So just be aware of that. Set limits with yourself, set boundaries with yourself. Healthy boundaries are healthy.
If you need suggestions for games, just check out Cozy Games reviews or roundups. There's a bunch of YouTubers that's like their niche, is what they talk about is cozy gaming. So they've got tons of great recommendations for you. And I think you could probably search like mobile only or Apple Arcade or whatever it is you're playing on.
Now, this one's definitely not a low effort hobby, so not good for when you're tired, but I really love studying languages. So I take an online Japanese class once a week, and I really like having the structure of a weekly class. And my teacher also assigns homework, which is great. Because I find for myself with self-directed study, without any sort of like a hard deadline to meet, I just always put it off because I am very busy. I do a lot of things. And, if I don't have that structure, I'm just going to keep pushing it down the road. And then I don't ever actually end up getting any studying done. Trust me, I tried this approach for many years, and for me, it just doesn't work. However, if I know that I've got class on Saturday, like that's a thing, every Saturday morning I've got a class, then I'm going to get my homework done and I'm going to make sure to review the material from the week before so that I come in prepared and I don't just shame myself in front of my teacher.
Because while I'm totally fine with disappointing myself and not getting the work done, if it was just self-studying, if it was self-directed learning, I will not let my sensei down. I do not want to see the disappointment in her eyes when I haven't completed my homework or I can't answer the questions. It's not that she's mean or anything. She's super, super nice. I actually really enjoy her class. I think she's one of the best teachers I've ever worked with. But that's why I don't want to let her down, because she's putting in the work. She's showing up for me. So I'm going to show up for her too.
This is definitely a weekend activity. You know, learning a new language, especially as an adult, is hard. So I pretty much need all of my faculties to make any sort of progress at all. So I typically, after a long day at work, I just don't do this in the evenings.
I just don't have enough left in the tank to be like, okay, let's do an hour of learning kanji. But it is something I really enjoy to do. I like that it keeps my mind active. And, you know, it was certainly helpful when we traveled to Tokyo this year. Okay, last one for you here is puzzles. Now, this one may be specific to me. Maybe other people don't find this like fun and engaging and relaxing. But I love it when I'm given a problem to solve and I'm like, ooh, ooh. And I don't want to say I get obsessive, but I get very focused. I like to do stuff like crossword puzzles, and the WeWork I go to puts out new ones every week, which I'm like, yay, thank you. But you can get books, there's apps, there's like apps you can get for like your phone or your tablet. And yeah, they're just, I don't know, I just like figuring them out. Like I mentioned earlier, if I had the space for jigsaw puzzles, I would absolutely do those, but I do not have the space. Maybe on the floor, but then I feel like that's really unfair to my partner. Could you just walk around the giant jigsaw puzzle? I'm working on the floor, thank you. So I think puzzles are fun. So that's just another suggestion for you. If you're like, that's whack, no way, I don't want to do that. Totally fair. But just throwing it out there. I'm just putting out ideas. You don't have to do all these hobbies. You can pick and choose the ones you like. I was actually surprised to find out when I started living nomadically that I didn't spend nearly as much time on hobbies as I did back when I had my house and I was just living in one place. And I guess it does make sense because, you know, I'd be in a new city. I was like, I'm only here for a few weeks, maybe a month, maybe 2 months. You know, I wanted to get out there, explore, take classes, just experience what the area had to offer before I had to move on. Whereas when I was living at home, I was like, I've seen it. Because of that, I ended up bringing way more hobby stuff than I needed to, and it was just really unnecessary. I didn't touch my cross stitching kit once, and so that thing just crisscrossed the Pacific a few times this past winter for no good reason. I probably should have left that one at home. As always, when you're nomadic, the less stuff you have to carry, the better. So that's my recommendation. Pick 1, 2, maybe 3 if they're all small things, and that's it. That's all you're gonna need. And you know what? If you end up finishing one of your projects, one of your hobbies, you know, if you're working on something creative and it's done, you can always get something else to work on wherever you are, I'm sure. So those are just a few ideas of things that you can take on the road with you as like quiet, nice little wind down hobbies for the end of the day, or, you know, stuff you can do on the weekend if you have some time to spare. And, you know, just some alternatives to scrolling on your phone. I'm not shaming you if you scroll on your phone. I do it plenty. But I'm just saying, maybe throw some other stuff in there. Your brain will thank you. So that's it for today. Thank you as always for watching. And if you have any questions at all, let me know in the comments. Bye.